All right, everybody, welcome to a Friday edition of Locked On Avalanche. I usually say happy Friday. For a lot of Avalanche fans, it's not a happy Friday. We finally have our conclusion to the Nazem Kadri free agency saga, and it is not ending the Colorado Avalanche. He goes to Calgary. A lot to talk about with him. It's going to be heavily focused on him and the deal and going to Calgary. How does that set them up? What do the Avs do now? Which is a question that's been asked. If he were to go, what would the Avalanche do? Their plan B has to kick in right now, whatever that was. So we'll talk a lot about that. And we did throw out questions or a question and answer on Instagram. So some people threw out some questions there. Picked a great day to do that because a lot of those questions were geared towards Kadri. A lot of them were not. So a lot to get to today. Maybe a little bit of a downer, but Kyle and I are here to hopefully pick you up before your weekend. Let's get to it.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I say a lot on this show. If you listen to this show for a while, there's a reason why I don't get attached to players. And in this day and age of free agency and, loyalty not being a thing, I'm not saying Kadri, needed to be loyal to the Avalanche or anything like that. I'm just saying in general terms, players move around. It's just the way of sports. So that's why I put the Colorado Avalanche franchise above individual players. I still root for individual players, but I don't get attached to them like I did when I was in my teenage years, when you knew guys were going to hang around for a long period of time.
I'm right here, Chris.
This is exactly why. This is exactly why. And Nazem Kadri moves on. Before we get to all of that, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions to LockedOnAvalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe. Get notified when a new show goes live. I took the Too Many Men off, or Too Many Men, sorry, off the wall. You're wearing your... you're wearing your Nazem Kadri shirt, but you did rearrange already, which I'm a little surprised at because he's your boy. He's your boy. I thought you'd leave him up there for personal purposes, but
100% transparency. I took it down with tears in my eyes. No lie. I was very upset. I was like, fine, you want to go to Calgary? Literally took it off the wall, threw it on the bed. I was not a happy camper.
All right. I get we're going to be upset, angry, all the range of emotions really for Avalanche fans. We all wanted him back, but the Avalanche stuck to their plan. With a lot of players, they're especially at the age of Nazem Kadri, they're not going to go for a long term. No. And you see what they did with Van Lechuskin. He's much younger. They were willing to take that risk with him. They clearly were not willing to do that with Nazem Kadri. I think they were trying to work it out until the bitter end. And I think for Kadri, term was important to him. Like it is for so many guys when they're negotiating what will be their biggest contract of their career. So you can't fault him for it. The money is kind of what we were thinking the Islanders wanted to do, 7 for 7. And we had talked about that. If that's what he wants, if $7 million is what he wants per year, I was wanting the Avalanche to really do that. I would be comfortable with that. Yeah. No more than that. But I agree with the Avalanche for not going 7 years. I would have gone, honestly, no more than 5. But he gets, if that's what the Avalanche were doing, he gets 2 extra years. Give me what you're thinking and your thoughts just on not so much the deal, just that Kadri's not going to be a part of this team anymore. And that alone, if I understand that he's a fan favorite. But production wise, this is going to be tough for the Avalanche to replace.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to the Avalanche moving forward, the moves have been made. We talked about this with Nas finding a landing spot. Like all the free agents are pretty much tucked away. Like there's not that big floating free agent. Like I know the Rodriguez crowd is out there, like Erod, everybody wants Erod, but
Mm-hmm.
this totally feels like a promote from within, see how it goes, and address it at the trade deadline if something's not happening. Yes, this is a huge burden to put on. I guess this is going to be a new hook thing. Um, you feel like that's going to be the guy stepping into that spot, but that's tough for New
Yeah.
Hook to carry that production. He doesn't have the same play style, doesn't have that physicality, and does not command respect like Nas did. So it's going to be different from lines 2, 3, and 4, but it's the Avalanche. We expect that year in, year out. Last year was one of those where everything worked. Now we go back to figuring it out.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people are thinking are kind of a lot of what you just said. See what Alex Newhook can do. I'm not sold on that yet. I'm
Hmm.
not saying that they will or will not do that. It might be a let's just try some different things here and there and see what sticks, see what works out best. I think they're going to go sign somebody. They absolutely are. I mean, they have I think just under $4 million in cap. That can get you a decent middle six guy. But you have lost Kadri and you've lost Burakovsky. Like, those are big points that you have to replace somehow. I'm a little bit more comfortable with Alex Newhook replacing what Andre Burakovsky can do than what Nazem Kadri can do. And I'll say this. We're all throwing out there, okay, Alex Newhook, keep it in house, sign someone like Rodriguez. All could happen. I wouldn't rule out McFarland and Sakic making some sort of deal, making some sort of trade for somebody, just like they did for Nazem Kadri. When they took him in, his contract was 4.5 million, I think, or was he 4.5 or 4.9? I think he was at
Yeah, he was somewhere in that
4.5.
range.
I think it was 4.5. They're very good at finding guys at the right time when they're kind of peaking, just like they have done with Mackinnon, and bringing those guys in, just like they did with Kadri, just like they did with Sam Girard, just like they did with Devon Taves. They're very good at bringing in players that are on team-friendly deals that get production. I wouldn't put it past them to make a trade for somebody. I don't know who it is. I didn't really dive deep into teams because it's going to be someone that's on a contract. It's not a free agent, although they probably will bring in a free agent. I do see that happening. I wouldn't put it past them to make a deal before the season starts, because they brought in Kadri to solidify that 2C. They could do it again. They honestly could do it again. So don't rule that out either.
Would you feel better if I told you line 1 is Lecky, Nate, Miko, line 2 is Gabe, Val, Newhook?
That would be okay. I don't, and I love Arturi Lekkinen. I don't know if I would put him on a top line yet. I think they like to keep, McKinnon and Landeskog together. And I
Mhm.
think they would want to move around Rantanen. He could be your 2C, technically. I know he's a winger, but he could be that. He's done it before. He could be the guy that just they slot him in and then shift some positions around, and they let him do it. It's not a
Interesting.
demotion. It's just we need to facilitate best we can the talent that we have and put him there. That's another option.
Yeah, I was phrasing that in the way where would it be a easier thing to swallow going into training camp knowing that we're breaking up the big 3 and splitting the load up between lines 1 and 2 to help offset that loss of Nas? Does that make it a little bit easier? of a sales pitch.
You might have to break up the big three,
Yeah.
and what you threw out there is breaking them up. And that's something that maybe they'll tinker around with in preseason and stuff like that. But they don't have a lot of time in preseason to get that right. And you don't really want to spend too much time in the regular season doing that.
Yeah.
So if they can't make a trade for somebody, like I said, I do think they're going to bring in someone free agency. It could be Rodriguez. I still think you're breaking up the big three. I just feel like it's happening right now because of what you've lost.
Yeah.
You've lost a lot of production in just those two guys that, you don't, we've been through this before where you are a top line team.
Yeah.
How far did that get us? Not very far. So I don't think the Avs are done. I think they tried to work this out, and it just, I think once again, it comes down to term, and the Avs are going to be smart about that. Somebody put up on Twitter, all like the age of Calgary.
Yeah.
They have a lot of guys over 30 years old, and I'm not saying 30 years old is like 70, but the way they phrased it was they have like 2 or 3 years to really go after this thing, and then it's going to start getting interesting for them.
And that's funny that you mentioned the age, because I wonder if that's why these little quiet, like little drip signings the Avs have been making, like Maltsev and Shane Bowers. Like, I wonder if it is that promote from within and giving that training camp, like, this is because they're basically like, a lot of these are all 1-year deals. Like, this is your chance. You want it? You want to make the money? You want to make the team? This is your chance. And
I
I
mean,
wonder if it is one of those where it is a promote from within. And if it's going south, I wonder if you're going to be correct around the trade deadline when you see what's working, what's not, and where the leaks in the ship is, and you could trade those players.
I mean, moves are going to be made. You're right.
Yeah.
If it's not before the regular season and the Avs just go with what they have, let's see what we can do. And then they reevaluate around the trade deadline and then maybe make some moves if they need to. The Avs just got interesting. The Avs got really, really interesting. And not that they're still a very good team. You still have superstars on this team. But you can't deny that this hurts them.
Yeah,
This does hurt them.
And it's not the discussion of one man makes the team. It's a complete line change mentality. Like, Nas brought so much to the team. Like, we talked about Nuke when we re-signed Nuke, what he brings to the team, and you can't track that on a stat. The same thing for Nas. And you would have to make the same adjustment for both players. If we lost Nas, but you didn't lose Nuke. But we'd be making the same conversation for the loss of Nuke if he also left the team, because of what they bring. You notice when things are not clicking like normal, when they're out of the lineup, and it's what the Avs are going to have to face going into next year. What we thought, let's run it back. No, we have to go win it again this year. It's not going to be as confident as you felt without Nas.
Yeah. You know what I will be watching, though, is how much of an impact does this have on the negotiations with Nathan MacKinnon? Do we hear something a little bit sooner now? Because you have to wait for that. Because if you were able to sign Kadri, that's soaking up or a decent amount of your cap. And you can't really make a decision on Nathan MacKinnon until you know if you do or do not have an extra $7 million for next season. So they do now, on top of other things, on top of a lot of free agents that they will have for next year. But you know what I'm saying? Like, they can't really get calculated on what they're going to do with MacKinnon until this was taken care of. Does this speed that process up now? They know that they don't have Kadri coming back. Now they can really look forward to next year. Maybe you do have to, sign another free agent, but he's not going to be taking $7 million. He might be 2 or 3. You can think about next year now a little bit more than you could 24 hours ago. Does that move the needle a little bit on signing Nathan MacKinnon?
I think it makes it easier to start those talks and have a better ballpark on what you're looking at. And I think it's a great way to cure the souls of Avalanche fans who are just like me, just to see Nathan MacKinnon locked up for the next 890 years.
For $890 million. All right, let's hear from BetOnline. And we have a handful of questions to get to from Instagram, some of which are Nazem Kadri related. So we'll start with those and then move down the line. But first, betonline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find all of your favorite sports and events on the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. I'm interested to see how much it moved the needle for Calgary after that. I haven't seen anything yet, but I'm sure by tomorrow, BetOnline will have updated odds. It'll be interesting. And that's another thing we'll talk about in a second here. How much this benefits Calgary? What an offseason they've had. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, esports, golf, and our favorite, the combat sports. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action that is happening around the sports nation at betonline.net, where the game starts. All right. We got, like I said, a handful of questions to get to. We'll start with the Kadri ones, obviously. Let's see here. Blah, 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 blah. Basically, there's a lot of questions were around what do you think of the contract? We kind of talked about that. And a lot are, how much does this help Calgary? It's been an eventful offseason for Calgary. I think a lot of people were jumping ship on them because of everything that happened with Tkachuk and moving the trade. Who was the
Johnny Hockey?
Tkachuk, yeah, Tkachuk was to Florida, Johnny Hockey to Columbus, and people were like, I mean, those are the two best players. Unbelievable. I know they got a good return in Huberdeau, but a lot of people were thinking, like, if they can't sign him, he's just a one-year rental. They go out to dinner with him and then sign him to a massive deal. Now you trade for Kadri. Like, Calgary did a fantastic job of losing huge players and replacing them with huge players. I think, I mean, they're just as much in the mix as they were last year, if you ask me.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit scarier because they realize, hey, we can win games without Kachuk and Gerdo, and we can bring in Nas and Hooby Dooby Doo, and we can win games here. Like, that takes a lot of betting on your team and really believing on where you're going, especially like your young talent. Like, you're getting older, so you're believing in your younger players of your team, and you have experience behind the bench. Goaltending, well, still a little. We'll have to figure that out. But Calgary, they look impressive.
There was one about like upset that the Avalanche didn't make this deal, and I think, like we said in the first segment, I think the dollars were probably there for the Avs. Maybe Kadri would have given them a little bit of a discount, which obviously would have helped. But I think, once again, they balked at the term. Is this going to be something that's, during the duration of next season where fans, you won't hear it from the Avalanche front office. You'll definitely hear from it from the fans. If the Avs don't get out to a good start, or for the first few months of the season are just playing up and down hockey, well, I mean, fans are just going to turn and just be like, why didn't you do that? Like, this is where Kadri could have helped us.
I'm eliminating half of the fans that will begin complaining. You can't say a word about not signing Nas if you've complained about EJ picking up that final year. Because if you agreed to that 7-7 for Nas, you're getting rid of the EJ contract, and then you're picking up a brand new EJ contract in the last 2 or 3 years that you're going to be like, my God, can he retire? Can this new expansion team pick him up? Like, you can't have it both ways. And I'm the biggest Nas fan in the world, but you can't get rid of an old contract and then buy another old contract. You can't do that.
I think that's a big reason why the Avs aren't going down this road.
Yep.
They're seeing, the end result of Erik Johnson, and they love him. They love what he means to the team. The fans love him, but they're not happy that they're paying him that amount of money. And you're right. It's not going to be for another 4 or 5 years, but you're going to have that cycle repeat itself eventually at the end of this contract with Nazem Kadri, and he'd be in an Avalanche uniform. And you're right, it'd just be Eric Johnson version 2.0. We would assume.
We've learned.
Yeah, I think they have. All right. Let's move on to some other things outside of the Nazem Kadri thing. I like this one. What impact, if any, will the games in Finland have on the season?
I feel like not so much the play. I feel like the optics. We just talked yesterday about marketing our young guns. What better way to market the Avalanche, the best team in the league, the Stanley Cup champions, than take them across the ocean and make a spectacle game? Like this used to be, if you hear international players that came up like in the middle to like 2010s talk about where they got their start, it was those international games. Watching those players live and in person.
Mhm.
The NHL players they watch on TV, that was how they got their start. This is a way of getting the new crop of international talent excited in the NHL. And if you're scrolling through the channels and you have nothing to watch and you say, "Oh, why is this game in Sweden? That's interesting." You're watching an Avalanche game. You're getting new viewers to watch Avalanche games. It's a win-win-win. There's nothing wrong with this Finland game, and I'm looking forward to it.
And it's interesting because the way that I read that question was not how you answered it, and I think that's good. You looked at it from the standpoint of the league. Does it help the league? Yeah, I agree with you. I was looking at it. Does it hurt the Avalanche as a team traveling that distance, playing a couple games and coming back? And I don't think it does, because I just brought up their schedule. They don't play for 5 days leading up to the first game. So they play back to back in Finland. So you got 5 days off to travel, play 2 games, and then you got 4 days off. So you'll be just fine. The jet lag will have worn off. So from will it affect their season? No, you got enough time before and after those games. But I like how you answered that. Well, no, I mean it just helped. Like, look at all the other sports that are playing games outside of the United States to grow the sport. Look at what the NFL is doing. The NFL is toying with putting a full-time team in London.
We all watched the Notre Dame game in Ireland just because it's cool.
Yeah, and I think college basketball does it. College basketball played a game on a
aircraft carrier.
Yeah, like, so you're doing these things to every sport wants to grow the game, and it's not like you have to grow it in Finland. I mean, it's a big sport over there, but when you get the NHL going there, like that's an event.
And there's already members of the team looking forward to it. They talked about an eclipse already, even at Stanley Cup celebrations. So,
yep. All right. What one player would you have on the Avs excluding Connor McDavid? Who would it be?
oh,
And is this like, salary cap does not exist here? Okay, go ahead.
It's a tie.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Hockey.
Yeah, you like him. Yeah.
Hey, John Gibson. I love his play. I've always wanted him between the pipes, and like, you get either Johnny Hockey or Gibson, we're fine.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say Nazem Kadri.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it still hasn't sunk in.
Yeah. For me, if you're on Instagram, you know my answers, but and again, if you listen to the show, I'm a Shane Gostisbehere guy. Clearly because he played at the college in my hometown that won a national championship. So I would just love to see him on the Avs just because of that reason. But outside of those selfish reasons, I'm a big Mika Zibanejad fan.
That'd be fun.
I love that guy. I just love his demeanor. I love how he plays, and he's great. he's a great hockey player. So I'd love to see him on the Avs. Top 3 games you would want to see in person this season, if you could.
If I could, I would love to see that first game in Ball Arena against St. Louis. I really would like to see I just want to see St. Louis and how they are coming out of that. Like, how bitter are they on their exit from the playoffs, and what will St. Louis do this season to try and dislodge that game?
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, we were talking rivalries the other day, and because of that and how the Avs eliminated them, definitely. That's probably at the top of my list is the Avs St. Louis game. Um, I always want to see them play Vegas just
Yeah.
to, throw a touchdown, maybe a touchdown and a field goal on them. That'd be nice. Um,
I'm looking forward to the Avs versus Seattle Kraken
really,
because Seattle mystifies me, and I love looking at that roster, and I want to see how the Avalanche can handle the Kraken. Like, everybody we got to get off this, like, laughing at the Kraken thing. They're about to be a problem.
I think they're a couple years away from really making it a dent, but they're going to be improved from last year. That's
Yeah.
that's just going to happen. We'll see how they can, put together a season unlike last year. But yeah, I mean they're improved. They're improved. So they're not like a pushover.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of hockey. Really, no team is. You can't really walk into any game and think you're just going to walk over a team.
Arizona.
Maybe it did yeah, and maybe Chicago. Um, and you probably did that last year with Seattle, but no, they're going to give you a game
Mhm.
this year, definitely. But for me, yeah, like I said, St. Louis, Vegas, and I definitely want to see the first Tampa matchup, just to see the rematch of the final. And I've never seen, and I know we're maybe contradicting myself, but yesterday how we kind of said, yeah, the rivalry with Detroit is pretty much over. I've never seen Avalanche versus Detroit go up against each other. I'd just
That's
like
a
to see that just to say I have.
And that 3 o'clock game is the day before my birthday, so it would just be
Mm,
beautiful. But
there you
that's
go.
not even my 3rd. That would not even be my 3rd. I wanna see the banner game. I wanna see
Oh, that'd be
Chicago.
nice.
I wanna see it
I
raised.
just wish it was against like a better opponent. But at the
This
same
is
time,
where
like,
they should
nah,
have put it against Tampa
like
Bay.
I don't like well, I was gonna say I don't like the NFL. The NFL puts the champion in on the Thursday game. It's not against who they faced.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if I'd want that. I don't know if I want a rematch in game one. But on the
I'm a
other end
little
of it, it's like, huh?
I'm petty.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like I wouldn't. I guess I'm okay with it being up against Chicago because raising the banner and then maybe just blowing over like maybe the worst team in the league maybe is not such a bad thing.
Yeah.
Um, all right, couple more to get to here. So we got to one player, the top 3 games. What was your favorite fight from last season?
Oh, easy.
I,
McDermott, Delorier.
yeah, I know. The one that just went on and on and on and on, like never ended. Yeah, I think that's
It's what took McDermott from a joke to a kind of tongue-in-cheek legend.
mhm.
Like,
And there's always good Gabe Landeskog fights.
yeah.
He always mixes it up with people. I'm trying to remember. I mean, there was no like Braden Shen fight from him last year,
Oh, no.
but I always like watching. I don't. It's weird to say that. I like watching Gabe Landeskog mix it up in the combat sports. Um,
Bet
fi-
online. Bet on
yeah,
that fight.
yeah. And last but not least, what surprise team do you see this season? Is
Interest
it Seattle? I mean,
I honestly I was about to I don't know if they're playoff ready,
mhm.
but that Kraken team, they have they're figuring things out. That first year was a fluke, throw it away. This Kraken team is something.
Well, and surprise team doesn't have to mean make the playoffs.
No.
You can just, overachieve. You know what I mean? Like kind of like Anaheim was for a good chunk of the season last year, and then they just fell off a cliff. Um, could be that. Could be
It'd
just
be it'd be Seattle for me. They're going to be sitting at the end of the year over some teams that would surprise you
mhm.
right now.
Yeah, they're an intriguing team. I don't think they have it in them to make a playoff run, but like I said, I think they can make some teams. They can be spoiler at the end of the year. It's very possible. I could see that happening. For me, again, if you follow on Instagram, you know my answer to this, and I know it's not going to be a popular one with Avalanche fans, but Detroit looks good.
Yeah.
Detroit looks like they can take that next step, and they've just I feel like Detroit fans have been very patient with
They have.
this rebuild, and now they want to see some action. They want to see this team not just like fight for a play. They want to see the team in the playoffs,
Yeah.
and they stepped it up a little bit last year. Just the way that the East was built, they didn't. They were like the first team out for a while, but they were so many points behind. Like you knew they weren't going to catch the second wild card team. They could this year. They really could. I think they've made some really good moves. They're young. They're exciting. They made a good trade for Villahuso, so they have good goaltending.
If they would have landed Nas, I would have put them in the playoffs.
I wasn't putting that past them. I think they were maybe you didn't hear about them too much going after Nas, which kind of surprised me. It doesn't mean that they weren't, but I don't know. I think Detroit has a little bit of fire in them this year, so we shall see. And then we did get one from our good buddy Nick, who we did the Avalanche as Marvel superheroes. He wants us to do he wants us to do Avalanche as Star Wars characters. So maybe we'll save that for Monday.
We heard you, Sheriff. We'll take this on.
All right, we'll do that Monday. But that's gonna wrap it up for now, man. I know, like how I said in the beginning, like I don't get attached to players. That doesn't mean this doesn't sting a little bit, and it definitely does for many reasons. Like he's all of the stuff that he went through, especially in that St. Louis game, and that hat trick that he had will be one of the biggest moments in Avalanche history. It really will be.
And
so it does hurt a little.
If this Avalanche team wants to continue to stand with Nas, you better welcome him back February 25th, I believe it is. They better.
That's
when
the day
Calgary comes to ball. Yeah, you better support him.
They 100% will. He is not getting booed. Yes, it is. It is 2 days before my birthday. Oh, and guess who the Avalanche play on my birthday, February 27th?
Vegas. Look at you.
Oh man, I can't.
The Avalanche, no, they always spoil us. Last year I had Minnesota on my birthday, and this year I have Detroit before it, and now you got Vegas.
Yes, I am betting the mortgage. All right, everybody, fire away in the comments. Tell us your Nas favorite memories or just how you feel right now. I know a lot of fans are okay with this because they didn't want the term, and some just absolutely are not. They wanted him back, come hell or high water. Didn't matter. They want it. So there's a yin and yang right now going on in the Avalanche fan base. But I think everybody does understand what he brought to the franchise, and that he will be missed. There's just.
No, you're 1,000% correct. He is missed, and as the biggest Nas fan, I couldn't handle the term.
No way around that. Yeah, no, I know. That's what I said on Instagram. I think it was just 2 years too many, if you ask me. So, all right, everyone, that's going to wrap it up. Enjoy the weekend. We will be back on Monday. Maybe the Avs make some trade or bring in a new free agent. We shall see.
Phil Kessel.
Hot dog. All right. That's going to wrap it up. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Obviously, that is always appreciated. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you next week. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I'm Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. See you guys next week.